It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
U.S. Cellular is here to help you spread some holiday cheer. This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast, and U.S. Cellular wants to help everyone get the gift of connection this holiday season. Already a customer? This applies to you too, because right now, new and current customers can get any phone, and I mean any phone, for free. Yes, really, for free. Sounds like it's time to make the switch. Spread holiday cheer far and wide this season with a new phone. Everyone can get the gift of connection at U.S. Cellular. Get any phone free today. U.S. Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com for details.
Intriguing angles that you got to dominate as a winning fantasy GM include taking a look at players less than 50% owned, under the radar targets on the blue line. That's where we're headed today to make sure you're building a winning squad. Thank you for joining us for the Friday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Let's tap in and let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Another week in the books and another week of fantasy hockey dominance. We hope for all of your squads out there. Thank you so much for joining us for the Friday episode of your source for fantasy hockey news. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I am joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, and thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We see and appreciate you, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Steele, good to have you back, my brother. I love talking about these angles on percentages on players that might not get a lot of shine for differing reasons, but we'll talk about that perhaps. Blue liners, though, we did it with centering, we did it with wingers. It's time to hit the back end and talk about some of these players that, yeah, okay, they're not going to be your first, second, third, maybe even 5 or 6 rounders. But if you can snag some of these top underrated D-men to round out your squad, just like the forwards, these are the teams that you see at the top of the table in your league. So we're looking at it. Underrated blue liners, 50% or less owned. I got one guy that's a little bit over Steele, but we're bending the rules. And of course, we're going to wrap up the show with Friday's big time bets. I'm on a heater and I'm trying to keep this money running. But right over to you, my friend. Thank you for joining me once again. Good to have you back. D-Men, who you looking at? Who you liking? Let's get to it.
I got to start with someone that I've talked about a lot over the last year and a half, but haven't yet spoken on him this season yet, and that's Brayden McNabb of the Vegas Golden Knights. One of those guys, like you said, who's not going to be one of your top defensive picks in the draft at the beginning of the season. Probably one of those guys you pick up off the waiver wire every so often now and again. But Brayden McNabb, he does all the little things. He might not bring all the offensive production. 46% rostered right now. He's got 2 goals, 11 points in 30 games for Vegas, who's in top of that Western Conference. And he, like I said, brings the peripherals for Vegas on the back end. 31 shots, not as high as he'd like, but 93 blocks, 40 hits. He's on pace for a career high 30 points. Which you got to go all the way back to 2014, 2015 season when he had 24 points, which would be his career high. So it's been a while for him, but he's getting up a little bit more in the offensive side of things. But you're really looking at this player for those peripherals, the shots, the blocks, the hits, the penalty minutes. And he does play a lot of time on ice, over 20 minutes average time on ice so far this season. So he's getting up there.
What's going to fit the mold on a lot of these players is, not every single category is going to jump off the page, but for the players that you round out your team with, and there's a reason why they're owned at 50% or less, some parts of their game are not exactly elite. Not everyone can have 5 Cale Makars. Not everyone can have 5 or 6 Quinn Hughes. So you're going to have to get creative. And I say this all the time, but it's a fact. GMs that win money, GMs that are at the top of the table for fantasy, they are able to peg some of these players on the rise or perhaps not getting enough love. And I think one of those exact players this year, Steele, and you and I both have him, is Niko Mikkola. On the Florida Panthers, this is a late blooming, big rangy defenseman. But now all of a sudden, Steele, and I'll make this point in a second because this is a good Florida Panthers blue line that even after Brandon Montour and Aaron Ekblad have come back. My man Mikkola is still plugging over 20 minutes a night. He is up there in the top 4, 3 goals, 8 assists, 12 penalty minutes, 44 shots on net. He's not afraid to throw around the body, 45 hits. He's bringing it with the block shots. I won't take away all of this take because I'll just say this. The fact that those 2 high caliber defensemen come back in the lineup and he doesn't go anywhere, it goes almost hand in hand with another player on the blue line in Florida in Gustav Forsling that I'll talk about a little bit later in the show. But this is a really good blue line in Florida.
And it goes to show the confidence that Mikkola has right now. You look at the career stats, especially on shots on goal. He's never cracked more than 62 shots in a season, and he's already at 44 shots in 28 games. So he's got a little bit more confidence. He's not afraid to jump up in the plays when he's in the play to make it an advantage for his team. And that's not something that we've seen from him in the past season. So it's very awesome to see him step up and really produce some of those offensive capabilities that we've seen. He's on pace for a career high 32 points. His career high is 13 points back in 2021-22 season. So this is good news for Mikkola, who's kind of moved around a lot. St. Louis, New York Rangers, now in Florida over the last 3-4 seasons. So this is a great opportunity to really to show the Florida Panthers what he can bring to the table and help them potentially go back to the Stanley Cup Finals and win it this time. He's not going to be the reason, but what I'm saying is he can bring
balance,
an edge
for sure,
a balance and an edge on the blue line. That's Montour, Ekblad, and all of those other guys on the blue line kind of do the offensive things.
And it's weird because, first of all, owned at 11% on Yahoo, 12% on ESPN. I actually have had a look at this guy a couple of times this season. Perfect little waiver wire addition. He's playing in the top 4, eating 20-plus minutes on a really good Eastern Conference club in the Florida Panthers, and he has 11 points and all of the peripherals we mentioned. So I'm unsure why you wouldn't want a guy like that.
I've got him in a few of my leagues.
There you go, pal. And there's going to be a few more names that we got to talk about. I want to keep today short and sweet, Steele. So I'm going to hit the break right now, and we'll come back right after. I got 2 more names to go quick. We got bets to go. It's Friday, baby, and it's the holiday season, so there's a lot going on. And you could be buying some tickets for your favorite event. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You never want to have a frustrating ticket buying experience when you're going for your favorite show, concert, anything. I've been there. You go to the gate, the code doesn't work. Go through the Game Time app and make sure that the ticket buying experience is a complete peace of mind purchase. See the views from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All in prices that show you up front, all in so you know exactly the deal you're getting with no hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds, Steele, and I love buying tickets for the NHL. Pop on there. Get a good deal. Bang, you're on your way. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Steele, I got it that time. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute deals, lowest price guaranteed.
Hey everyone, Chris from Locked On Avalanche here. If you like using debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases, which means you can get cash back on NHL tickets or head-to-toe hockey gear to make this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Big news continues to come out of Locked On Podcast Network. They've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's been up for almost a month now. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts from Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So go to Locked On Sports today. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Hit the subscribe, the follow button, and a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support. I'm going to throw it back over to Flip because he's got two players. I got one defenseman I want to talk about. Okay. But who's that second defenseman you're looking at?
it just goes right hand in hand with a guy on his team and Gustav Forsling, another late blooming defenseman who is now really finding his form, Steele. I think Gustav Forsling, you may have actually brought him to my attention last year. I believe you were saying after all those injuries in Florida, take a look at Forsling to seize an opportunity, and I think he's done just that. He munches minutes. He's a good puck mover. He can skate. Actually, there's a lot of similarities in terms of how his career has gone, in terms of Mikkola's starting really slow and kind of really now coming onto the scene. Obviously, he's a bit of a mini dude. I think he's only 6 foot, 180 pounds. So the fact that he can still get it done, Steele, and I was looking at his numbers today, plus 17, he's only been a minus once in his career. He's been plus every single season, and he's been eating big minutes. Last year, 23. The year before, 21. He's up there to almost 23 a night this year. 3 goals, 6 assists, 16 penalty minutes, 62 shots on net, almost 40 block shots, almost 30 hits. A lot to like about Gustav Forsling. And how about this? Right after those guys come back, Ekblad and Montour, he stays on the top pairing, quote unquote, and he's eating up a lot of minutes. Neither Mikkola or Forsling get any power play time, but they both get a ton of PK time. For whatever that value is, it might be there. In some leagues, there are shorthanded goals, so you never know. Shorthanded points as well. So I just wanted to bring up Forsling and Mikkola because this is where I'm cheating a bit, Steele. 54% on Yahoo for Forsling, which I still think is criminally low. 45% on ESPN, so he does fit this mold. Very under the radar, very underrated.
And the one thing I've noticed about Forsling this year, I talked about him in the preseason before the season started, and I was giving him a lot of gas this upcoming year because I thought he was going to take this opportunity with Montour and Ekblad out of the lineup and really take over while they were recovering from their injuries. You know, it didn't end up happening. He wasn't the best that I saw him. It actually ended up being Oliver Ekman-Larsson who became that quarterback on the power play and really brought the offensive side of things on the blue line instead of Forsling. And now that they've got Montour and Ekblad back, since they've been back, Forsling has actually been a lot better with them in the lineup than without them. So I think their presence on the blue line has really helped them on that top D pairing as well. So he's been a lot better. This player's been a lot better too as well. And so in the overall team, Noah Hannafin of the Calgary Flames rostered at 43% on Yahoo right now. 5 goals, 15 points in 29 games. 51 shots, 40 blocks, 20 hits. I've got him in a few of my fantasy leagues as well. He's on the top D pairing. He's first power play unit. He's second penalty kill unit. He's playing over 23 minutes of average ice time right now for the Calgary Flames. 3-game point streak, and we know his name is out there circling, whirling around on the trade block. It seems like who knows if the Calgary Flames are going to pull the trigger on Noah Hannafin and send him somewhere else. But the better he plays, the better it is for the Calgary Flames and his stock value and what it means for him if he were to be moved. And right now he's playing his best for the Calgary Flames. So I really like Noah Hannafin. And if he does get moved to a potentially better team, it's going to skyrocket his fantasy value.
Most definitely. I actually think, considering the Calgary Flames have played pretty well over the last few weeks, that they might be holding pat all the way through until the deadline, perhaps now, to really see what they have. Because if they're knocking on the door for a wild card and you can't even just get into the playoffs, I think Noah Hannafin is probably going to be a pretty big reason why they're able to do that. Although, if it goes the other way, for sure, his value goes up. I'm actually surprised Noah Hannafin is under 50% owned because definitely in dedicated hockey circles and fantasy circles, he is properly rated, I would say. But I like this deal. This is where I think you and I have said this recently too on Waiver Wire Mondays, perhaps, how ESPN, Yahoo, even some others, Fantrax, the discrepancies on ownership doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but maybe we need to be digging into that a little bit more. Another episode, we're keeping today tight. Kaiden Guhle, 40%, 45% on ESPN, 11% on Yahoo. There you go. And I get it. He's gone stretches of this season with really not doing much in terms of offensive production, but he blocks shots, Steele. 71 block shots already. He's not afraid to throw the body around. That's not his game, but he is a big lad. And I think he's 21 years old, a 16th overall draft pick, and he's a guy that I've got my eyes on. You know that I like saying this. This might be one of my favorite young D-men on the come-up, Steele. I don't want to tip my hand here too much. But Kaiden Guhle at 6'2", 200-plus pounds, he does a little bit of everything well. Last year, first season in the NHL, I was okay with it. 44 games, 18 points. 77 block shots, 84 hits only in 44 games. This kid is going to explode in a year or two. I don't think he's quite there yet, but definitely under the radar, definitely fits this mold, and I'd be very fine if he's like my last defenseman drafted this year or even my first on the waiver wire. But I think next year, as he plays better to finish off this season, I would expect him to go up draft boards in a big way because also, if I'm right or not, first round defenseman in 16 slots or higher, which he was 16th overall, once they start to go, they get a lot of fantasy attention, and I think that's going to happen with Kaiden Guhle.
And a good thing to remember as well, that this is a very young Montreal Canadiens team.
Exactly. Thank you.
Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Guhle, Mr. Wi-Fi on the back end, Justin Barron as well. I'm going to throw Mike Matheson, Barron, even though he's a little bit older. Barron's been very good too for the Montreal Canadiens. He brings some offensive capabilities. But this is still a very young team, and they've got a lot of young pieces on the blue line. They're trying to figure themselves out right now. They've got Sam Montembeault, another young goaltender in the crease. They signed him to a 3-year deal.
Yeah,
so this is still a very young team. But as they continue to grow and develop with their game and, find their confidence, find their comfort zone, they're only going to continue to get better. And highlighting Guhle right now at such a young age and what we've seen him do so far this season. I know Montreal is still at the bottom of the league in the Eastern Conference, but you got to look for these. It doesn't matter where they are in the league. This is fantasy. This is fantasy talk we're talking about right now. So even if they're one of the, we've said this many times, if they're on one of the bad teams, you can still find some value even on the worst teams in the NHL. We might even have to start talking about the San Jose Sharks a little bit more because they've got some guys going a little bit. Do you have one more player for the Sharks or something you want to mention?
It's not on the Sharks, but I do want to talk about them for bets. I do have quick 2 honorable mentions if you're done, but I can hit you after your. Do you have a player left?
No, I don't have a player. List off your 2 honorable mentions.
So 2 honorable mentions. Sean Walker has been getting a lot of attention this year because he's on the trade bait board. There's a lot of these defensemen that are like, actually fit this mold perfectly, Steele, but in the NHL's terms, they're maybe bottom pairing, bottom like 4, 5, or 6 D-men. But in the fantasy realm, especially in deeper leagues, if they're bringing peripheral value and chipping in with some offense, they fit this mold. So Sean Walker is one. Also, there's a reason why he hasn't been dealt off that Flyers team. His name's been everywhere. The Flyers like him, and they're winning. So there's another little tidbit for you. And Thomas Harley on the Dallas Stars is picking up steam. He's another top draft pick for this Dallas Stars team, and he is picking up some offensive numbers. 6 goals, 4 assists for 10 points. Again, not jumping off the page. 18th overall draft pick, 22 years old, 6'3", 205 pounds. A lot of similarities between him and Guhle. And I'm telling you right now, if it's not both of them, one of those guys is going to be a top pairing defenseman in the very near future. And you can't help but think, with the depth in Dallas, it might be Guhle getting more look early on, but don't sleep on Harley either.
That's why we're highlighting some of these young pieces and under the radar defensemen below 50%. You got to keep your eye open on the waiver wire target. We're going to keep our eye open for big time bets. It's coming up right next, very, very soon. But this episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet, money line bet. That's $150 in bonus bets if your money line bet wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, which we urge you to do so, there's no better time to get into the action. It's super safe and easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and of course, our favorite on this podcast, the same game parlay, the flip triple dip is like what we like to call it. So visit FanDuel.com/lockonAnd and kick off the NFL season right. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Joe DiBiase of the Locked On Sabres podcast. Butcher Box has all you need for a tasty, stress-free holiday season with high-quality protein delivered to your door. Sometimes the best gifts are the ones you give yourself, and Butcher Box is here to help you treat yourself to more delicious, wholesome meals. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/NHL and use the code NHL to get free chicken wings for a year. That's 3 pounds of free-range organic chicken wings free in every order for a year when you sign up at butcherbox.com/NHL and use the code NHL.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, and leave a 5-star review. Also, continue leaving the comments on the YouTube channel. We'll get back and reply as soon as possible, even over on Twitter as well.
Yep.
We love all the feedback and the conversations, dialogue that we can have with our listeners out there. So thank you so much for tuning in every single day. Throughout the entire week. Big time bets. We're trying to make some extra cash for the holiday season. Christmas presents are getting expensive out there. So we need to make a little bit more moolah. I'm going to throw it over to you because you've been riding hot. You've been on a streak right now. And I've had a very bad back-to-back night. So I got to listen to the guru over here.
All right. I appreciate that, Steele. And now, though, as you're pumping me up, I got my jetpack on. I'm boosting myself here. I'm kind of going into this one, and this is where it'll come off the rails for me because now I have a few bucks in my pocket, and now I'm starting to feel myself. Just very quickly, 96-69-0 this year, Steele, picking winners at an over 58% clip. So we're trying to keep this rolling in a very big way. Oh, baby, though, if I said I'm going to be talking about the San Jose Sharks and bets, buckle up, my friends. Anyway, Ottawa Senators into Big D to play the Stars. Senators playing some bad hockey right now. They're going to be on the second night of a back-to-back. Jonas Korpisalo in the cage on Thursday. You're going to have Anton Forsberg in there, who I know has had a couple of good performances, but hasn't been good this year. I don't like the back-to-back angle as well for a team in the Ottawa Senators that are one of the worst on the road this season. So give me the Dallas Stars on the money line. The odd isn't great, so you're going to have to add this one into a parlay. I think it's minus 190. And just lastly, Ottawa actually has points in 7 of their last 9 games against Dallas, including 6 wins. So it's a tough spot in terms of the recent trends. I'm going gut here. I'm going gut on a couple of these, Steele. But considering I've been winning, I'm going to just go with it, and we'll talk about this on Monday if it goes awry.
Well, I've got a couple of gut picks as well. Actually, I've got a pick as from that Sharks-Coyotes game too, so I'll mention that in a little bit. But this one's a little bit just of a bounce-back redemption for me. Rangers got their butt handed to them against the Toronto Maple Leafs in that 7-3 win over the weekend. That was a big surprise to me, especially on a back-to-back for the Maple Leafs after losing to the Islanders in overtime. But I'm going to go with the Rangers on the money line. I don't know exactly what the odds are right here, but it's probably going to be close to what you said for the Stars, minus 190, minus 180, something along those lines. But I'm going to take the Rangers on the money line against the Anaheim Ducks at home. Expect a bounce back from Shesterkin. If he's in the crease, Jonathan Quick's been great in there, but just expect a bounce back overall for this New York Rangers team that has been very solid this entire season so far.
Rangers 7-2-1 in their last 10 head-to-head against the Ducks. It's going to be one of those spots where the money line bet on its own, obviously not worth it, but I'm feeling this spot, and you're going to add it into the parlay and thank us later. We're just picking winners. You guys lay the bets down. We're trying to highlight good hockey spots. The betting spots, we're going to give you our advice. You take it from there. Steele, you want me to take it from here with the second pick, or are you going to just fire off the rest of yours?
I'll fire off the rest, but those two right there, Rangers money line, Stars money line, you can add those into a parlay to juice up those odds. I'll list off the next 2 picks for Friday night, and one of them's coming from that Sharks-Coyotes game. I'm going to take the over 6.5 in this matchup. 7 of the last 10 have gone over the number. If they haven't gone over the number, it's been at 6 in the game. So they've been very close to the overs or getting over almost immediately in some high scoring contests. And this Sharks team has been in some very high scoring contests of late as well. So have the Coyotes been all season long. So I'm going to take the over 6.5. The trend seems to go that way. It's also more of a gut feeling because of how both these teams are playing. Right now, the Sharks have picked it up a lot from the first month of the season.
Yes, they have.
But for my lock of the night, this one is a little bit of a gut feeling as well. But I'm going to take the Islanders on the money line against the Boston Bruins at home.
I like it.
They've been very good. I don't know their record in the last 10 games. I think they're 8-1-1 or something along those lines. Don't have the standings up right now in front of me, but I'm taking the Islanders on the money line against the Boston Bruins. In the last 10 matchups between these two teams, the last 5 games, the Bruins have won. The 5 games previous to that, the Islanders won. So 5 on, 5 off. I'm going with the Islanders at home on the money line. They're playing great hockey. I know the Bruins have been a special team too, but they've been a lot worse this last couple of weeks than they have been at the first 2 months of the season. So that's the lock of the night for me, Islanders money line.
Loving this one, Steele. Boston, 2 wins out of their last 10 trips to Long Island. They don't play well on the road against Long Island. They've also looked mortal over the last 2 games, Steele. They only score 1 goal against the Buffalo Sabres and lose. They only score 1 goal against the Devils and lose. And then in between, you beat the Arizona Coyotes. So over the last 3 games, you can clearly say, and then, there was that 3-game blip, Detroit, Rangers, Columbus, that they lost to as well. So this team is very much human, very much mortal, and I love that you're going with the Islanders because my second pick is from this game as well, but it's for the total. And I know when I look at the numbers, and this is where I'm saying, the trends are almost always your friends, but on tonight, I'm going to just go with how I'm seeing the games, and so far this week, it's been working. So I'm just going to go with it because 6 of the last 10 between these two have gone over the number, including the time that they played earlier this season, 5-2 Boston. But Boston's struggling to score. New York is feeling it. Sorokin is feeling it. I don't really need to hear about the last 10 games when I'm just looking at the last couple for each in this situation. Give me the under 6.5. By the way, my lock of the night, Sharks into Arizona. Let me just get this going here. Puck line plus 1.5 at minus 140 is my lock of the night. I don't have the cojones to bet on the Sharks road steal, but let me just bring this up. 3 straight dominant wins for this San Jose Shark team against this Arizona squad. They're 3-0 in their last 3. And when you look at the San Jose Sharks over their last, how many games here? All the way back 6 games, they've either won or lost by 1. Actually, all the way back to mid-November. They've been playing 1-goal games or winning. They've been turning it around. I'm loving this angle. Arizona, I know we've talked all about them, but give me San Jose. I'm copping out. Puck line plus 1.5 at a minus 140. They can keep it 1-goal game all day and we still win. Add it into the parlay, baby, and let's get this loot.
The Bruins and the Islanders under 6.5 was almost in my top 3 picks here as well, but it's most likely going to be a part of my parlay because the under is definitely going to hit with 2 of the hottest goaltenders in the league. Those are the picks for Friday night, the locks of the night, and thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. And again, make sure you go to Locked On Sports today. They've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. They're here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On. So make sure you go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And thank you again so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again on Monday.
Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to champion your vehicle. From superchargers, exhaust kits, and more, with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, eBay Motors levels your baby up to its peak performance. Plus, with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Buying tickets to see your favorite NHL team shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Insurance. With 3 A's.
It's time to let go of your insurance frustrations and experience insurance the way insurance should be, with a brand as dependable as AAA. Visit AAA.com/insurance for a quote on auto and home.